So the other day, I really felt that the Holy Spirit was telling me to.
Wait a minute. What do you
What?
mean Holy Spirit's telling you? Explain that. I don't
Uh,
know.
that's a long process. But I don't know. Why don't we talk about that? Let's talk about that. Let's
Let's
talk
talk
about
about
the
that.
Holy Spirit and how he moves and works in our
Let's
souls.
do it. Okay, so tell me your story.
Holy Spirit, Father Jeremy,
He spoke to you.
he spoke to me.
Tell me how that works.
Uh,
I've got a lot of questions because
Actually,
many people ask about that, and I don't know the answer, but we could talk about it and figure it out
Yeah.
together.
it's a whole mystery that you can live. It's living a mysterious reality which exists. But it happened the other day when we were actually in the park, and you were telling me how young adults, the events we put together are based on their needs and not that we promote it and then we try to find whoever can come. And so my Holy Spirit moment was, so why not we create a system where we do kind of an a la carte thing, right? And we say, hey, we're here. Do you need anything? You choose, and we cater to.
Stroke of brilliance.
Right?
Amazing.
So could that be the Holy Spirit, or could that not have been the Holy Spirit? It's all these initiatives that come to our minds. Or is that just because I'm smart?
Well,
not.
whose idea was it? But
It's
you have to
his
discern.
idea.
You have to discern, right? You have to figure out. This is it, and this is what it comes down to. I think is everything that comes to my mind in prayer or outside of prayer from God, or are there other elements there we have to take into account? There's a good book, several, but Discernment of Spirits is a really good one, and that's a topic maybe we could touch on a little bit today. But also spiritual combat. Something I don't think we talk about a lot. You don't hear very much.
Mm-hmm.
It's out there, but to understand, is this coming from God or not? So I think that's a great topic.
Yeah, it's something that people have asked. People, especially when you give spiritual direction,
I've asked.
they always ask like, so how do I know this comes from God? Right? And there are many theories and many schools. There's no perfect school. That's why it's a mystery that we just try to live with, right? Some priest one day said it's like you're a sailboat in the ocean, and what, every circumstance is different. The waves are different, wind is different, but you still have that sailboat, and it's still you, and it's still the ocean.
Do you actually sail?
No.
You've heard.
I
You've heard.
swim.
But it's true. Yeah. The
yes.
waves, and the ocean, there's a lot of navigating, and that's called the virtue of counsel,
Yeah.
right? In this sea where there's dangers and paths I'm supposed to follow, how do I navigate all that?
Yeah.
Do we know the answer always? No, of
No.
course not. That's where the Holy Spirit nudges us and guides us.
Yes. So why don't we do this?
Yes.
3 things, because you can have 1,000 things, but let's top 3 tips from Father Jeremy on how to listen to the Holy Spirit and to see if that's actually from him.
And you're going to help me with this.
Oh yeah,
I'll give like 1.5.
Okay. Father J and Father J.
So I think one thing is, what is being told? What's the message? There's an element I think we all struggle with of like a cloud that kind of, or a fog that hangs over us sometimes that causes a feeling, whether it's anxiety, joy, enthusiasm. So important to settle and distinguish. Even write it down. Okay, this event that I just experienced, or these multiple questions that are floating around, let me take them into bite-sized pieces. So often we have this huge mammoth feeling or emotion or cloud, right? And it's so important to like write down, okay, what are the different concrete ideas that I could wrap my head around and look at and put my finger on. Mm-hmm. So that's good as far as almost an examination of conscience or some processing downtime. So yeah, journal. Say, hey, okay, I'm stressed out. I don't know why. It's terrible. And maybe I should just, stop taking this course or quit my job or break up with this person because it just doesn't feel right. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, wait a minute. So that's important. Like write down exactly what, get very concrete. And then you could start to say, all right, is this truth? Is this something I should really consider or just cast aside? So I think that's a first point, maybe, you know, just
that hinges on the whole personal discernment thing. Because aside from asking, there's a lot of questions you ask. Once you have that all written down, then you can ask all these questions that verify: is this true? Does it help me? Does it help others? Does it give me peace? Does it take away my peace? Does it make me happy?
Yeah. Is it in line with who I am?
Is it in line with who I am?
Or is it something that's deviating me from my course? Right?
Yeah. And, you know, there's a whole, you know, you can read a lot of books that can tell you how to actually do that. But that's step number 1.
Yeah.
And I'm going to guess what your step number 2 is, which is not written down anywhere.
This is hard.
But I can read his mind.
Let's see if we can read each other's mind.
So,
once I have it written down to see if it brings me peace, you pray about it. And you ask the Holy Spirit, God, enlighten me. Is this where you're going?
Well, that's all part of number 1. Number 2, I think, this is, correct me if I'm wrong, is you bring it to someone.
Oh, right.
Right? You talk about it with someone who can give objectivity, or at least a second opinion. And if it's someone who's skilled or trained, like a spiritual director or a priest or someone who can guide you, even your mom or a friend, you say, hey, I've been thinking about this, and you talk about it. The worst thing that can happen to anyone when he has a problem is to keep it to himself, and it just festers. It's like getting like old laundry and just like keeping it in the bag. Ugh, right?
Or positive things that come, and you could just say, oh, that's an awesome idea, and you know, you follow it, and you're like, wait a minute, was this authentically from God?
Yeah.
Or just share the joy. Say, hey, look, this happened to me. And it does help us realize that God's at work. Before, I think, going to a spiritual director, which is the second step, maybe to tie off the first step would be bring it to God. Because you don't want to bring it to somebody and just, you know, say, tell me if this is true. Tell me that. But you really say, maybe with your spiritual guide or your spiritual director, I brought this to prayer, and this is what I've come away with. Put it all on the table. But I think before bringing it to a human wisdom, we bring it to God first. God. Yeah. And say, Lord, what are you telling me in all this?
That's true.
I love the example of Mary at the incarnation of the angel coming to her and giving her the word. She doesn't just say, oh, great, perfect, yeah, I'll be mother of God. Yeah, I'll take on this role. But she says, how is this going to be? Like, she asks more questions to see if the Holy Spirit was truly working through this instrument, even though it was an angel, right?
Yeah.
So what does that second point look like? When you bring it to somebody, what are you expecting them to tell you? Or
first you come with openness, right? You don't ask someone to say, tell me that I'm right. You know, when someone says, say yes or yes, right? Tell me I'm right or I'm right. It's going first with openness and really saying, hey, so what do you think about this? Right? And even taking that part of prayer, have that other person pray what you've done. And I've had many good spiritual directors in my life that have said, let me pray about what you just told me, and I'll get back to you. And for me, that's super consoling, because then, you know, okay, he's not just gonna speak to me about what was off his mind, but it's something that he's gonna take to prayer. So it's an openness, there's a trust there, and there's this readiness to be confirmed, affirmed, or not, right?
And accepting that.
Yeah. So,
and I think that's important too with all of our life. It's having a spiritual friend that you could just bounce things off of. It gives us clarity and processes every event, and you're able to say, all right, this is a pattern that I see in my life, how God treats me, how the Holy Spirit moves within me, and I'm starting to get used to recognizing him when he talks. And that brings us to another aspect of this is, there's some negative or even like, you know, the evil one, the devil, he really does try to even throw us off with even holy thoughts, right?
Yeah.
What does that spiritual battle look like, right? It's real, and it's something that he uses in moments of either vulnerability that we have or moments of excitement, of jubilation. Always. There's not like a season that he works. He works all the time.
Day,
so
every day.
That's important to say. These triggers that I have, right? These moments or experiences, is my reaction with this to either go towards God or go away from God? And that's where you look at one of these voices of the Holy Spirit or insights. Is this confirming who I am, bringing me consolation, bringing me closer to God, allowing me to walk freely in truth and in virtue? Or is it bringing me desolation? Is it bringing me anxiety? Is it bringing me, kind of like a prickly feeling in my soul that's like, I shouldn't be doing this, but I'll allow it now, right? So there's kind of that using all of our humanity, our personality, to understand with, I wouldn't say just feeling. We use our intellect and our companions, spiritual companions in our life to help us to, be objective, right? And then put it out there with, like you said, humility and obedience to say, right, I think this is coming from God. I don't think this is coming from God. This is definitely not, doesn't have the right vibe, right?
Yeah.
So those are the first two things. And the third thing I think that we have to look at is to trust, right?
You read my mind.
Trust.
This is great.
So what's that trust look like, right? It's God, you are
That's
so powerful. You're God, right?
Yeah.
You just walk in that freedom. It's like, hey, I might not make the right decision, but you know what? You could take care of that. You kind of have given me where I am right now, everything.
Yeah.
There's nothing I have that's mine, and there's no decision that's gonna like bind me into a trap.
Yeah.
If I'm truly following what I believe to be in good conscience, your voice.
Yeah. That's that brings to mind what the Shakespeare line of "to be or not to be." And in a more spiritual light, just talking to someone the other day, it's to stay or to go. Like, should I act on it or should I not act on it? Should I say yes to this inspiration or no? And it's very simple. It's black or white, and then you trust, and that's huge. And it's not easy. It's easy to say it now, like, oh yeah, let's trust in God, but there are times when you just have to, just hold on for your dear life and say, you know what? Yes.
We've all been there.
You can take it on the more kind of a negative thing of when you battle sin or a bad habit or an addiction, and it's wrong for you, and you say, move on, then go somewhere else. Don't even get into that, right? And it's hard, right? Or someone's something inside of you is telling you, gotta help this person, right? All these like promptings. You ever hear that word, promptings by the Holy Spirit?
Stirrings,
right? Go say this. Go call out that person. Go, and your laziness or the comfort to be like, I'll just wait. I don't really need to call out that person, but then it's just telling you, just go. Like, they need you right now, and so you do, and you trust. And some rule that related to this, which I try to practice, is never do what you will regret having not done in the future. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
think of your future self. Would you have regretted this decision I made in the past or not?
Yeah.
I've got some awesome quotes that underline kind of this trust in God, and it's a different aspect. I liked it. I was reading St. Paul, just some quotes here. This is awesome. Look, to understand who we are through our baptism, what we have dwelling within us, the Spirit of God dwelling within us. These are really cool. Everyone's heard them, but I just like to put them in this context. From Corinthians, do you not know that you are a temple of God and the Spirit of God is dwelling within you? It's so beautiful. Think about the Jews, right? They thought the temple was the only dwelling of God on earth.
Yeah.
And when they heard St. Paul say, you are the temple of God, right? After Christ's saying that you will no longer worship in the temple, but you will worship in the Spirit. But that the Holy Spirit's dwelling within us. So awesome to think that, God doesn't give partial little nuggets of himself to everybody. It's like, I'll give you a little taste of who I am, but not fully, right? He's unconditional fullness all the time. The fullness of heaven through the sacraments, through grace, right, is poured into our souls. That's really cool. And then the second one's from Timothy. Guard to the Holy Spirit who dwells in us, the treasures which has been entrusted to you. So again, like that third point of trusting and working to protect the treasure, right? But the Spirit, like, what is that treasure that we have? Do I appreciate it? Is it something that I tap into? And I say, if the Holy Spirit in its fullness is dwelling in my heart, I mean, that's the same Spirit that rose Lazarus from the dead, that rose Christ from the dead, that cast out demons, that healed. And what are our desires and concerns in our life? Our prayers, our intentions? Lord, help this person. Lord, fix this relationship in my life. Lord, undo this tangle that I have in my life. And the fullness of the Spirit is right there at our disposition. All we have to do is just say, I surrender. Lord, you work. Unleash that power within us. And listening to the promptings of the Holy Spirit, you say, I'm going to be your instrument today. This is a cool one. If the Spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead dwells in you, he who raised Christ from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies through the Holy Spirit who dwells within you. Same idea. The same Spirit that rose Christ from the dead, he's going to give life to your life through the Holy Spirit.
It's huge.
And it goes on and on, right? There's one on John, Galatians, and this one's my favorite, I think. Ephesians.
This one's great, and this next one, this is even greater.
We have favorites. So
it's my favorite.
To know the love of Christ that surpasses knowledge, so that you may be filled with all the fullness of God. Knowing the love of God fills you with the fullness of God.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Now to him who is able to accomplish far more than all we are imagine, or the power that works within us. So anything that you could imagine, he's able to fulfill more because of the power dwelling within us. St. Paul.
Oh, he's
So,
huge. He's huge.
Yeah, just I think in that context, to trust. Lord, if you dwell within me, all wisdom, all power, all strength, let that work. Let God be God and be at work. And say, I'm a broken instrument. I carry this in vessels of clay. I got to work for it. I got to discern, is this from God, is this from not? And I've got to pray and kind of, do that work myself, but allow God to work.
Yeah.
I mean, that just changes our outlook on life, I think.
It gives a lot of positivity. Gives a lot of reassurance that we're not disparate beings. We're not like human with this distant Holy Spirit. It's that unity that, when people say trust yourself, like trust your decisions in a certain way. Like if you have a good decision and you mean well, then just trust that it's God working through you, right? So it's not as complicated as it is if our heart's in the right place. I tell people this all the time. If your heart is in the right place and your conscience is clear and you're at peace, you can do anything, right?
Love and do what you want.
Who said that?
St. Augustine.
St. Augustine.
But along with, right, that
discernment
and having other people help you with objectivity. There's rules, right? But
anyway, we just touched the surface of the ocean. But this is a lot. So I think that's all time we have. We are exactly hitting the 20-minute mark. So this is great.
Well, thank you for
listening.
A little conversation. No, for you being here. I enjoy this. Next to the fire.
No, I love this. Is one of my favorite topics, and we can talk nonstop about this. And hopefully this helps a lot of you in your prayer life and also discernment and just living out your lives in union with God. It's a great adventure, and we're all part of it. So, pretty powerful.
We'll pray for you, and
whoever's listening to this, we'll pray for our listeners. And until next time.
God bless.
God bless you.